themselves. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying I'm trying to justify it. I'm just saying you could spend your whole life ruminating on the past. It's not healthy and it's not productive. You gotta let it go. So
I
grace
think,
is it's not deserved, but it's the right thing to do.
okay, as a principal who paid for OG for my teachers, I
Mm-hmm.
remember having a teacher just sobbing in the training, being like, I didn't know this. I didn't know I wasn't doing this. And I think that a lot of teachers feel this feeling of, I thought I was doing right by kids, and now I
Yeah.
understand why they're not reading. So I appreciate
I
you
think
having this message that I think so many teachers need. Let's
I
talk about
think
the other thing that you talked about at the
well
conference,
hold
which
on,
is
hold on, hold
love.
on 1 second.
Which
If you don't mind, hold
again,
on
I
one
think,
second.
what we hear a lot is phonics, and we hear a lot about explicit instruction and stuff like that. So it was really fun to have someone end with love. Why don't you tell me
Yeah.
about literacy and love
Yeah.
for you?
Well, let me just say, I'll talk to you about literacy and love, but what you just mentioned before, I think is huge. I think because that's the reality of things. When you spend a whole career, or even just 5 or 6 years of your life doing the best you can, and you honestly believe this is what's best for kids. This is what the field says. And then all of a sudden, somebody come around and tell you, well, actually, you're not doing it right, or whatever it is. You could reach more kids if you did it like this. Man, that's like a knife to the gut. And it's not
Right.
about who's right and who's wrong. It's about what does this mean for what does this mean for the time served and for the kids lost? What is my culpability in that? Are my hands clean? There has to be some absolution,
Right.
and all that. So I think you just asked about love, right? Let me make sure I get the framing of your question right. What was it again?
Well, what I love is that your third element of what we need as part of the science of reading and the reading wars is love. And I think we've
Yeah.
heard enough about phonics. We've heard a lot of the pillars. We know about Scarborough's reading rope. So tell me about why we need love.
Okay. All right. So first of all, there's only one way that the things that we've internalized as a field could have really taken root. Some of the, Ken Goodman's reading is a psycholinguistic guessing game. We actually believe that stuff. Well, it made 3Qing and all. Like, it doesn't even make sense on his face, but
Right.
we soaked it up, right? But the reason why I think a lot of that stuff sold, and units of study and other programs, at least it felt right.
Right.
At least in the communication, these ideas of kids and nooks, and it felt loving, it felt kind, and especially when you're not really sure what to do, the least you can do is make sure there's some love involved, and love wins. It's compelling, just like excellence. Those type of things draw people to it, and when in doubt, follow love. Right. The only problem is it wasn't backed by the science and the research. And so what we thought to be a pedagogical hug ended up being,
A knife in the
unfortunately,
back, honestly.
yeah, yeah, undermining their opportunities and their futures. We didn't mean to do it. So with that being said, here you come with the science of reading or evidence-based instruction, or, however you want to label it. If love is not on the agenda, and I mean on the front burner, not the back burner, if we don't come in and say, okay, in addition to this systematic, explicit, direct approach, it has to be done with love. If we don't do that, then we risk becoming like some school networks in the New York area, I won't name them, who tried, this is actually really, who tried to imitate Marva Collins. Marva Collins was a Black educator in the 70s, 80s, and 90s in Chicago, and she did the thing. I mean, it was it. Now, yes, it did Thoreau, Shakespeare, and all the rest, but this was science of reading laid out, operationalized, the phonemic awareness, the phonics, the vocabulary, fluency, comprehension, all that type of stuff, the oral language development. They were doing Shakespeare and Thoreau and classic literature. They didn't take recess at all. There were no sports at all. And people would say, my gosh, that is like, that's so sterile. Nah. The reason why it flew, the reason why it worked for her is because there was love there. So people tried to copy that model.
Right.
And so they had these, had kids walking on a line and sit in a certain way. And they looked at the trappings of it, the accoutrements. They didn't understand that in the core of it was love. And love doesn't always look the same. I love my kids. All my students know. Listen. I adopted my son from he was a student of mine. I have untold godchildren who I love dearly. I'm close to, and just regular kids. Like that's what it is. But man, I was a monster in the classroom. Just like I was nuts and bolts. So I wasn't the touchy feely type of teacher. That's not my style.
Right.
That's not my personality. Now, I mean, I care deeply about my kids and their families, but I'm not going to try to be something I'm not. I'm going to be what they need me to be for them. So love doesn't show up one particular way. First of all, love is a lesson plan. Love is preparation.
Right.
Love is duty. Love is getting over ourselves. Love is not judging. The circumstances and the situation and this and that for kids and their families. Now, love says, I'm flying blind here, and I'm going to treat you as if you were the president's son or daughter.
Right.
That's why I didn't look in my CUNY folder for the first 3 or 4 months of the school year. Because that box where they put all the records in there. I want to look at, because if I look in that folder, they're going to tell me all the problems the kids have. Ain't nothing good in that folder. Like, I know they can't sit still. They can't read. That's why they can't sit still. I don't need a folder. I don't want to bias myself against a kid by learning the negatives. Listen, I'm not telling everybody else to do this. I'm just telling you the way I did it.
Right.
I knew that if I saw the stuff, the problems, the issues, then I might start looking at a kid as a problem or an issue. I couldn't afford to do that. Now with 35 high needs kids, let's go get it. I'm seeing you as an individual who I'm going to take this thing step by step anyway. We're going from point A to point Z anyway, so I don't need that thing.
Right.
Now, if it doesn't work out in tier 1, that's why I say, look, it's a tier 1 problem, not a tier 2 or 3 problem. But love is approaching things with not just best intentions, but best effort, with dedication, doing your duty, being prepared. And I'd even go so far, and I know this is probably sacrilege. I know they might turn you off after this, but a lot of people say, well, it's got to be all about relationship. We need relationships first so that we can teach the kids. You got to have good relationship. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Right.
I know I know somebody's pissed off right now. You don't. I'm their teacher. I'm not necessarily their buddy. Like we can develop a friendship and like I say, I have, but let's be clear about what this is. I'm the teacher. You the student. I'm not saying I know everything, but it's my job to guide you. And there's going to be sometimes I'm going to have to give you some tough feedback in love. There's going to be some times you might not like it. Your parents might not like it. What I got to say, because I'm honest enough to tell you the truth and help you get to where you need to go. Right? That's love. To me, that's love. But it's not vindictive. It's not about power and control. It's not about anything other than I care for you and I want you to be successful. Not because it's better for my career, but because the human right to know is sacred. And I see you as sacred. And so in love, hey, sit down. Where's your work? Where's your work at? No. You got to do it. You got to do it. It's not even an option. And you can do it. And I'm going to sit here with you until you do. Like that's, so I understand love is all through it. And it's the only way these fanciful systems that we create, these wonderful curriculums that we buy, these professional developments we go to, it's the only way to actually do that stuff and endure and be able to apply it. That's the sinew is love. That's what makes everything stick together.
I really love that. And I think what you're saying, what I heard you say about your mentor, Marva Collins, is that like there's these high expectations that can be the way that you love someone. And I think there is actually a lot of research backing what you're saying, that the best way to do social emotional learning is through really good work and really hard work. Like it's in those challenges that we grow and connect with one another. It's not outside of it. And I think that has a lot of value. I think it's interesting that you talk about, like I'll ask you any question and I guarantee you're going to find a way to bring in Marva Collins and you're going to find a way to bring in your students. And so I want to ask you though, how did you end up with this career in literacy, right? Because I think you probably could have taught forever. I think you could have been someone who was in the classroom forever and working through everything. So how did this become your journey?
I think I've always been on this path.
Really?
I got to a point in life where I had to reckon with what was in the center. You know, I was nibbling around the edges. I can remember being a teacher, and I mean, I was getting it every year. You know, first it was English only, which meant basically black kids and Latino kids who spoke English only. That was that. Then it ended up being bilingual, and I remember asking myself before I transitioned to bilingual, how human am I? Can I still approach this with the same love and energy and enthusiasm and commitment and dedication to kids that don't look like me? How human am I? And I actually said, I don't know, because I grew up wanting to help little black kids like me. I grew up in the hood. It's like I want us to be able to make it. But do I care about other people's children as much as my own? And I didn't know the answer to that question, to be honest with you.
Wow.
But I was willing to try, and I was pleasantly surprised by my own humanity. My heart just melted, man. Kids.
What did that look like? Tell me what your heart melting in a classroom looks like.
The first day, Mr. Marquez, I'm in the office. It's the first day of school, and I'm sitting in there in the office, just sitting in the chair, taking it all in, doing whatever, maybe just praying to myself or something. And all of a sudden, the parent comes in, Mr. Marquez, and he says, he says, what is this teacher? What was this teacher? Weaver, did you not understand me? Bilingual. Bilingual. Okay? I said bilingual. I want my daughter in bilingual. So I speak, and this is all in Spanish. I speak Spanish. He don't know I speak Spanish. There's a black guy sitting in the corner. I'm just peeping all this out, like, oh, okay. So he don't think, I'm not mad at him. But I think the admin assistant, she whispered to him, he over there. He looked at me. He's like, whatever. He don't know. That young lady is now one of my goddaughters, Heidi. And I think, and I love the family. I taught another sister after that. So basically, it's a matter of giving people the space to be real and authentic and not having to stuff them into some predetermined box of what it looks like to be a good person. Man, come as you are. And I'm going to be real and honest and loving with you and yours. And I'm going to respect you and all what you coming in with. I know you don't have, you may not like me today, but by my service, you'll know me, right? I'm not asking you to love Kareem, because sometimes I'm not, but I can serve. And my ego ain't involved in it. And when you see me serve, you see me love your daughter, you see when that paper comes home, it's not just with a grade, there's feedback on that paper. I paid attention to details. Matter of fact, I held his daughter back. I retained her because I love her. Yeah, I love her. I can't send her on. She's not ready. She's not ready. You know it and I know it. And the only way we're going to send her on is if we're tired of her. I'm not too tired. Come on back. You made a lot of progress. But baby, you got some ways to go. And Mr. Marquez, Mr. Weaver, I understand what you're saying. That's how I used to say it. But I mean, I think people know when you love their kids, and it's not about how nice you talk to them. It's about how honest you are in the spirit that you have with it. She was a hard worker. She was incredibly funny and kind. I think she was dyslexic. Back then I didn't know, but now hindsight, I think she was dyslexic. But it was my job to get her to excellence, and I held that standard for her and helped her to get there. And he appreciated that for her and the other sister too. So, that's what it looked like. Love is what you do day to day. It's not about having a bumper sticker or something, all that type of virtue signaling. All that's fine. But I'm just saying, like, show me your service. That's the love. Like I say, it's a lesson plan. It's, do I plan for that child? Do I love that child? And where are we going to get them to? So that's how I would answer that.
Okay. So let's talk about that journey. So you were teaching English only, then bilingual with this lovely little girl, Heidi. And then what happened next?
Well, there's a lot before that, but I won't go into all that unless you want me to. I'll just go from there. After that, I became a principal. there's this organization called New Leaders for New Schools.
Right.
And their thing is they turn around schools, schools that are really struggling, and they train leaders to turn them around. And there was a guy who I mentored who was a teacher, and he did the program. He came back and said, Weaver, you got to do this. You got to do this. It's like, I don't know. I was scared to leave the classroom because, first of all, I was effective at it, and that was my lane. And I felt like I needed the kids just as much as they needed me, but I had been divorced. And part of the reason why I got divorced was because that's my personality. Like, I'm all in. That's not healthy. Right. That's why you hear me telling people wellness is important. It's because I done been there. It's not a shtick. This is the reality. People, man, so many marriages break up off this. It's the same as like ER doctors. The stress that they bring home is just a lot for a couple to bear. So anyway, so I had to really think about it. Then my wife was like, this is your calling, and da-da-da-da. We were teachers together, so she knows my get down. And she's like, I'm gonna be here. Don't worry about it. We can do it. We can do it. So with that, I went on ahead and trained in New Leaders, and then became an assistant principal, then a principal, and led some schools and had some success helping kids get what they need. Matter of fact, my first principalship in Oakland was I chose a school that had been on strike the year before. All the parents took the kids out of school and put them on strike. They was like, nah, we done with this place. This place is toxic. We don't like these teachers. We don't like the environment. We on strike. So I was like, that was my people right there. I want to go to that school. So we went there, and the school turned around over the course of a couple of years. The teachers did great. The teachers worked their butts off. They figured some stuff out. I probably lost my job 3 or 4 times. I could have lost it, because if you're going to do right, you can't be afraid to lose your job.
Right.
You just can't be. As a principal, forget about it. So anyway, so that was my next step. And then from there, I have done other things. But it's all in education. I've even been a funder. I was a funder at New Schools for a while. There's some people that hate New Schools. I was like, I was in charge of the Innovative Schools portfolio. So I was like, oh, I get to give people money? You get a check. You get a check. You get a check. It was traditional public schools, any school. Y'all can come if you make the case. I'm like, hey, I want to give it to the people that are doing the work. At the same time, I told them, I was like, I'm not here for silver bullets, though. Like, right. The solution is good teaching and learning. The innovation isn't the thing. The discipline, the hard work, and the sacrifice and the service is the thing. We already know what to do. That's not exactly their model. Their model is we need a new, something. We're trying to find new models of school. I'm like, the model, Marva Collins was 40 years ago. That's the model. So it's cool. So I've done a bunch of stuff.
So what I think is interesting is that when you talk about teaching, you talk about being all in.
Yeah.
But right before this episode, you had to close 37 tabs on your computer. And when I asked what they were, you said, they're all reading.
Yeah.
And this is what you're all about. Tell me why you're all about it.
I'm just focused like a laser on this stuff. And I realized that, if you do a root cause analysis, a wishbone or a 5 whys, just keep asking, why is that? Why is that? Okay. The city is a mess. Why? Oh, because unemployment